Alright, welcome back to Phyre Dojo. So, this is part 2 of the Plum Egyptian drill set. This is the HearthBoard that was milled in the last vlog. Now, this Plum, by the way, is not completely seasoned. And what happens is, as it's seasoning, there's movement in the wood as moisture escapes and the growth rings move around. So this was milled last week, and I want you to see the movement that happened within 1 week. Okay, this used to be flat, but as you can see, there's a concavity here, right? You can see there's a dip from the ends inside, and if I flip it over, it's convex. And this just happened in 1 week. Now, how do you predict the movement of wood? In which way it's going to bend, which way it's going to according to the growth rings. So as you can see here, here's the center, or near the center, right? And the growth rings go around this way, right? Well, these lines, these semicircular lines, what they want to do is they want to straighten out. Always think of it that way, that the growth rings want to straighten. So if a growth ring is like this, right, it wants to do this. It wants to flatten out. So you can automatically predict that the concavity is going to be on this side and the convexity is going to be on this side, because these growth rings are going to want to do this. So this side ends up, the ends here start coming up and the ends here are down. So convex, concavity. Alright. So before I put this on the machine, and actually technically I should wait a year before I even do anything with this, but I'm going to remill it flat and put it on the machine and put the set away, I guess, for a while. Alright, here we go. Alright, so I just got done remilling this board, and this is the top where it's convex, and this was the bottom part of the grains, growth rings, which was convex. So now, as you can see, it's dead flat. So on both sides. Alright. No more convexity. No more concavity. Now you probably think that was a very, very small difference. Why is that even important? Well, when it goes on the CNC machine, the machine is supposed to read it as if it's dead flat. If it's not dead flat, it's going to cut very awkward on the machine. And even if I was doing it by hand, with a router machine, it would still be awkward, because it still would not be dead flat. Because then, although a machine is referencing something that's supposed to be dead flat, as a human using tools, I also want to reference something that's dead flat. And it only makes sense. So the first thing you have to do is get everything super flat. Alright? Alright, next. Okay, so I'm down in my basement workshop. Okay. Here's the growth rings going this way. Okay. Now, when I put this on the machine and I go to cut the troughs and the sockets and everything that makes a hearthboard, I know that this is still going to bend, and I know that these lines are going to want to straighten out. So this side is going to be concave, and this side is going to be convex. So what I'm going to do is make the conscious decision to make this the top, where actually the bottom. Which way does that go again? It's going to straighten out that way. Yes. So the convexity that is going to be, when this keeps moving, I'm going to put the troughs in here so that it spreads out a little differently. If I take out too much on what would be, sorry about that. If I take out too much what would be on the concavity, it's going to be even more concave because all that material will have been removed. So I'm going to remove material on the convex side, which by the way I've never done. So I'm going to see what happens. Now I did this something similar with Douglas fir that was still moving because I bought it still green when you buy it at like a Home Depot or a Lowe's if it's on the lumber rack. And when I did that, you know what, I still have to take this down. Alright, so I forgot that this needs to be 5.5 inches. This is still 6.25 inches. So I'm going to put this on the machine and take it down to 5.5, and then I have to measure this out. So I'll be back. Alright, so I cut the edges down to 5.5, and now what I have to do is find the center of the board. So half of 24 inches is 12. And then half of, let's do this, half of 5.5 is 2 3/4. And then X marks the spot. So that's center of the board. And that's where the machine is going to reference from. So let's put it on the machine. Alright, so this is the first time I'm showing how the sausage is made. So I have 2 CNCs machines, and so the first thing we're going to do are the socket holes. So first I have to reference the machine in the dead center of the wood. It has to find 0 on the XYZ axes. The Z-axis has to be right on. Now it can reference the wood in all 4 directions because it's dead flat. If it wasn't dead flat, it would cut very strangely. Okay. Set it to 0. Gonna go up, and we're gonna have it cut the program for the sockets for an Egyptian drill board, which is pre-programmed. And here we go. put the whole machine inside of a cabinet to reduce dust and noise. It reduces dust and noise. So the sockets take 2 hours, 35 minutes to do. So we're gonna do something else while I'm waiting for that to finish. Okay. All right, so I'm very excited to have this. This is a slab of Ailanthus, or a tree of heaven. Now, it's an invasive tree, kind of a weed tree. It's been around a very long time now in the United States. In fact, what makes Tree of Heaven or Ailanthus famous is the old book, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. So the tree that grows in Brooklyn is an Ailanthus tree. It's a tree of heaven. And it's known because it'll grow just about anywhere, right? And it will take over given the opportunity. So now, as much as there is Ailanthus trees just about everywhere, especially in New Jersey, wherever I look to get it from a specialty sawmill, no one has it. So I had to order this one from West Virginia. So even if I had access to a dead Ailanthus tree around here, I mean, I would have to get permission from the owner of the property, cut it down, take it to the local sawmill, or figure out a way to cut it myself and get a slab of it. So I literally had to buy this off eBay from West Virginia. So here it is. As you can see, there's no saw marks across it. Whoever cut this on their mill also planed it on their planing machine, whatever it is they have, and because they took the surface off, I could see by these the fur that comes off here. That's from a planer. So what am I looking at here? Well, I have a problem here. And Jake is holding the camera for me, by the way. Say hi, Jake.
Hello.
All right, so starting from here to here, from the end of the slab to here, I have this large crack in it that goes this whole length. Well, I don't want that through my board, right? So I don't want this crack in my board. And over here, I have this large knot, which I don't want either. But luckily, in between is more than 24 inches of select and clear. Select and clear means no knots, no cracks, no faults in the wood. It's just nice grain. So what I have is clear and select wood right here in the middle. So what I'm going to do with this is make pressure hand braces out of here. And on this side I can make reloads. And I'm going to cut my board out. And I might be able to get some bows out of here, or more reloads, depending. Okay, but here's my HearthBoard, which is going to end up being about 6 inches, well, 5.5 inches, 5.5 inches by 24. So the slab is already 1.5 inches in width, but that's going to come down to about 1.25 inch when I'm done. So I'm going to cut this out first, and I'll worry about these later. But what I really want to do is get this board out of here. I want this out, so I'm going to do that. Okay. cut. Alright. So I measured out this board that's in the middle. It's at 2 3/4 in width. So that leaves me enough room to joint the edges down to 5.5 inches when it's ready. So let's cut it. Okay, so I've cut out the hearthboard. So the next thing I'm going to do is get everything square. This is really, really thick. It's now that we could really see, it's exactly 1.5 inches. So I may just leave it at that, just for laughs and giggles. But I'm going to take down both sides on the jointer and planer so that we can get everything nice and even, including the edges. You can see all the saw marks right on the edge. We'll take those down. So I got this board square on 4 sides. It's perfectly even. It is now 1 1/8 inch, which is perfect. Now the only thing I need to do is really square up these sides, these ends. We'll do that with a square. So we can get it like right at 24 and square. See, this is a reference now. The edge is a reference. So now that that's 90 degrees, this edge is square. So I could use the square as a reference to get that at 90 degrees. And now we're gonna cut it. So Jiggy's gonna come over. Alright, I now have 6 square sides. I have 2 faces, reference faces that are parallel. I have 2 edges that are reference faces and parallel. And I have 2 ends that are reference faces. 6 square sides. So, and now we can put this on the CNC machine, just like we did with the Plum. Okay. Cut. So here the sockets are done on this Plum. I'm going to take here are the sockets. Now this is not done, but I want to come on over here, Jerry. We're going to do what we did with the Plum. And we have to find center now that it's dead flat, right? So half of 24 is 12 inches, and then half of 5.5 is 2 3/4, so X marks the spot. Okay. Now I have to line up the board and lock it down so it doesn't move. It's very important that it doesn't move. That it's dead flat and doesn't move. Can't move at all unless you want to destroy your machine. This is how the sausage is made, right? Alright, so we got to find our X, Y, and Z axes. So let's get out of there. So we're pretty much right over the X. I'm going to go back a little. Okay. You have to go down. Alright. X, Y, and Z, we're going to 0. Everything is 0. I'm going to go up. And we're going to find sockets. Program. We're going to start. Control dust and sound, and the sockets are going to run for 2 hours and 35 minutes. All right, and then we're going to do something else. Okay, let's go. So here's some of our Ailanthus here, our offcuts. Now this piece, if you remember from before, it has this crack in it. Well, the interesting thing about this crack is that it's very straight. And actually we're going to take advantage of that. So I'm going to take advantage of the straightness of this crack. And we're going to cut down the middle of it. Take advantage of that by basically ignoring it. I'm going to cut straight down that line. So my plan is to get Egyptian drill spindles out of here and here. So, and the rest will be offcuts. So I'm going to get 2 spindles. So this is going to get cut. 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 All right. Cut. So I have 2 CNC machines. CNC again stands for Computer Numeric Control. And it's basically a router or a spindle on a machine that's controlled by a computer. And you program it to do the cuts that you want as you would a router. So here is the Plum that the sockets are done. Now we're going to do, back here, we're going to do notches and the troughs. Okay, so I've programmed it already. I've marked it at 0, so we're ready to go. So we're gonna find top flutes and notches, and we're gonna start it. This is also built with a cabinet to reduce dust and noise. So this is CNC 1. The one over here is CNC 2. This is the Ailanthus sockets we just did, and I already changed the bit, programmed it, got it zeroed, and now we're ready to do the same thing we're doing with the Plum. We're going to do the back flutes or troughs and notches. So I'm going to find top flutes and notches and start it. To reduce dust and noise. Now the troughs and flutes take 11 hours to do, and then I have to do the other side, so that's going to take almost 12 hours to do. All right, I'm going to show you something a little different. Now, when sets come off the CNC machine, or even if you just use a router by hand, sometimes you're going to get these things called fur. These fibers of wood come off the wood, and it's not a very clean cut. So what I've been doing all this time is really one of two things. I will take my favorite kind of knife, a Japanese kiridashi knife, which has one bevel on it. So this is a right-handed bevel knife. And I will remove the fur by hand. Okay, so this board is black walnut. This is heartwood. This one is cherry here. So black walnut and cherry. So I'm going to show you these examples with this. So I would take the knife, and you're going to stay there. And I would trim the fur off like that with the knife. Now, believe it or not, I really enjoy this process. The problem is that it takes a long time. And a lot of times when I do these cuts here like this, they're not perfectly even, and I have to end up sanding them down anyway. Okay, so I've tried using a small file to get the fur off, which can work, and I could sand it at the same time and make it even, right? I could use sandpaper on a stick and help get the fur. I can cut the fur off through abrasion and sand it as well. That's another option. So I can cut, I could sand. But if you pan over here, I have tons and tons of boards that are ready. I have a lot to go through. So, and this is just a drop in the ocean of what I have, right? So, one of the things I'll do is use a Dremel with a small angled bit, and I will cut the fur off. This is called defurring. So I'll cut the fur off, and I'll sand at the same time. And I can get inside things like the notch here. And it will even out the edges. Can get in the notch, because there's fur in that notch too. And I can clean up those edges. Same thing with the cherry. So my choice could also be an X-Acto knife, right? If you don't have a kiridashi knife, right? So I would cut the fur off. Right? Get those fibers off, because I don't like how that looks. No one would like how that looks. I forgot the TV though. Sorry, I forgot the TV's on. That shouldn't be on. Right. Clean that up. Clean that up. But the problem is it's still kind of rough and the cuts are a little strange. So this is one of those nail buffers. And this is a lot lighter than a Dremel. And it comes with its own bits. So you could do the same thing with this. So I can cut the fur and sand at the same time. Okay. And where I cut, I can even that out. So defurring like this is a big, huge process. So this takes a lot of sit down time to get these things off. So one of the other problems I have is that it doesn't cut all the fur. It leaves fur down here in these corners. See? So what I would have to do is change into a different kind of cutting bit so I can get down in this corner and cut these fur out. So just to show you, that's part of the process of getting these boards a little bit more cleaned up so that they don't have any fur on them. Right. Right. On to the next. Alright, so this is a small lathe. What a lathe does is you put a block of wood in here between centers, okay, and it spins, and what you do is you take these special chisels, lathe chisels, and as this spins it cuts pieces off and makes this piece cylindrical. It makes it completely round. So the first thing you have to do is try to find the center of the blank, right? So I did all these already. Black walnut, there's 4 of those, 2 Ailanthus, and 14 cherry. So I did all these already. These are done, and I'm going to show you that process. So you take one of these center finders, and you put it on the piece and you spin it 4 times in the same direction, marking the center. And where the lines meet is dead center. So you do that to both sides. And where all those lines meet is center for those. So I'm going to do one more, Plum. There's center. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what I do is, in order for it to help seat itself between the centers, I take a very small drill bit. This one's the smallest Forstner bit. And to help me out here, I put it in the vise. I get the center, and I eat out the center a little bit. Do the other side. Every time. Do this one. Now, just so you don't have to watch me do all of them, I did these 2 dozen already. And I'm doing the last 2 now. Get it right between. So I'm done with the drill. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these pieces over so they're not in the way. Now that you've seen them. Alright. So the first one I'm going to do is Plum. And I'm going to do the Ailanthus and the Walnut. So let's put Plum between centers. And what I like to do is seat it in a little bit. Push that in and lock it. And I'm going to push this in so it's really seated. Lock that. Now you have to get your tool rest up nice and close, but it can't hit the blank. I'm going to back that up a little bit. Alright, so let's start with a roughing gouge. And I'm just going to take these edges off, start to get it round. It's a little hard to see what I'm doing, but I'm taking the edges off. See? It's starting to get rounder. If you look directly at it, at the horizon of it, you can see it's starting to get round here, and it's still square here. Okay, so turn this off, move this down, make sure that doesn't hit. if you look up here at the silhouette when I do it, actually this is where I'm looking when I gouge or cut. I'm actually looking up here. And I can see the silhouette change. I love the color of this plum. It's amazing. So let's go back here. See, it's still flat here, but otherwise I'm starting to get all the way around. I'm going to switch to a medium. Look, and you can see that starting to get round. In fact, it's round enough where I could lay my hand on it and there's no bumps. All right. So I'm not going to have Jake hold the camera for the rest of this. I'm going to set the camera up on a stand. And I'm going to finish this, and I'm going to finish these. And you can see how much shavings come off in just that little bit. That's quite a bit, right? And obviously I have a lot to do. That's going to take hours and hours, but it's not a have to do. It's I get to do it. So it's something I look forward to doing instead of it being work. Again, you have to enjoy the process of making the set as much, it has to be as much fun as lighting up the set. Okay, you have to enjoy making the set. All right, thanks for holding the camera, Jake, and I'm going to set the camera. Thanks. Alright, so what exactly am I doing here? Well, here, when I cut these blanks out, they're about an inch and a half, which is here. So what I want to do is get this down to an inch and a quarter, which is about there. And you can see this one is not quite there yet. So, and then what I'm going to do is make the entire thing, the entire length of it, a cylinder of an inch and a quarter on all of these. Okay, that's my goal. So that's really, really smooth. I sanded it down with the vacuum because obviously I want the vacuum to catch all that dust. So if I put a little oil on it, which I probably shouldn't do right now, but I'm dying to see the colors on this thing pop out a little bit. That's really nice. That plum is really nice. Okay, so now I have to shape it so that it looks like a spindle. This is one of my older ones that's made out of lignum vitae, which is now a very rare and protected species. So you can't readily get it anymore. So I want the spindle to be 9 inches in length. So I'm going to make the bottom flat, and I have to bring it down to here, which means all this is going to get cut off. Now it's easy to mark this by leaving your pen there, pencil, and letting it spin. Alright, so what I want to do is take this down so that it comes to a blunt point up to here. So I'm going to start with a small gouge and bring it down. Alright, so now I just have to release it from this piece. So I'm going to loosen the tailstock, pull that back a little bit, take the tailstock off. Okay, so you can see what I did. I brought it down to a tapered point. Now all I need to do is just cut this off. So I would just go to the bandsaw and just cut it off. So for now I'm just going to leave that there. And we're going to start our second plum. Because what I'll do is I'll batch them. I'll cut them all on the bandsaw all at once. And then I will blunt the edges on a sander all together, all at once. Everything will be batched. So now you know the process. So I'm just going to run through all the rest of these. All right. So CNC2 finished cutting this top flute and notches. Now I caught early that the machine had gone off its programming, and I stopped it and restarted it so that it would hopefully fix its programming. It did, but the damage is done. Since I only have one HearthBoard, this is one of the stresses of having only one piece to work with, but it's okay, it'll be alright. So now I'm going to restart the machine and do the bottom flutes and notches that match up with the bottom sockets. Here on CNC1, I must have the speed wrong for this hardwood, for the Plum, because it's kind of burning. And so you can see it's really dark where it's been cutting. Even the bit is kind of burnt, but I'll have to figure that one out. Alright, so I'm going to restart this one to cut the bottom flute and notches down here. So on this one, cherry number 2, I got a little thin on taking it down and it busted right off, so I didn't get to finish it. So I'm going to put this one aside. Alright, so I'm going to take a quick break from lathing more spindles. So I got 2 Ailanthus, 4 Walnut, 1, 2, 3, 4 cherry, and 1 that broke, and the 2 Plum. I just got to cut the ends off and sand it to shape for these. I got 9 more cherry to do, just for laughs. Alright, so Andrew had a question about drilling lumens, or which are holes, for Egyptian drill spindles. Okay, so the reload for an Egyptian drill spindle is 3/4 of an inch. So what I need is a lumen. I need a hole in the bottom of the spindle for 3/4 of an inch. Okay. Now first, I'm going to show you. So you get a 3/4 inch reload in diameter. Okay. You'll have your calipers, and you'll measure that, and it'll be at 3/4 of an inch. Okay, because you want your measurements to be precise. Now, the reload itself has a lumen, has a hole. Okay, now how do I drill that hole in the reload? Okay, so what I do is, we're going to come down here. What I had is a drill press, and you can see this is an old-timey drill press, right? And for your drill press, you need something called a self-centering vise. A self-centering vise. And what this does is when you put something in it, it automatically centers. Okay? So you have to adjust the vise so that it's directly under your drill, in this case your drill press, and when you go to press down on the drill and you drill down into the reload. Okay, now the drill bit that I use for the 3/4 inch reload is a 3/8 inch, and I like the brad point drill bits best. I think they center best, and I think they cut best. So I highly recommend for the 3/8 inch reload, 3/4 inch reload, a 3/8 inch brad point drill bit. Okay. So your drill press with a self-centering vise for your reloads. Now, how do I drill a lumen into something this large? Well, it can't go through the vise, and it can't go through the drill press table. So I had to invent a jig. So what's a jig? A jig is something you have to make in order to accomplish something that a tool won't. All right. So I took some medium density fiberboard, or MDF, and I made 2 walls at 90 degrees. Okay, 2 walls, if you could see. I glued them and screwed it together so it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, now the bottom does not really have to be square. The bottom doesn't necessarily have to be square, but you want it as square as possible. But the top that I have here absolutely has to be square. If this is not square, the lumen that you drill will be off by that angle, and that's going to be really bad. So this has to be square. Okay. Now I glued and screwed a plywood top on here. And how does this work? Well, I'm going to take the broken spindle that I have and show you. So I take a F-clamp, all right? I want you to see how I do this. I put the spindle through the window. Okay, as you can see here, the 90 degree where the wall meets, I cut that out of the top, and I left some more room for the spindle. So the 90 degrees keeps it from moving, keeps it from going anywhere. Now I want it to stick up just a little bit out of the hole. Now I'm going to F-clamp this in. So it doesn't go anywhere. Okay. Now, in theory, if you built the jig correctly, and the top is 90 degrees from the walls here, okay, if it's perfectly perpendicular, you're going to get a straight lumen. Alright, so this is a Miles Craft drill press, And so what I have here in this drill press is a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. Okay, so I put the 3/4 Forstner bit in to the Milescraft drill press. Now I have to get this perfectly lined up to the center of the spindle. Right, and then once I do, I have to carefully take an F-clamp and vise it down. Clamp it down. Okay. Sometimes I use 2 for good measure. Okay. And I'll double check to make sure. It looks like I'm dead center in that spindle there. Okay, so now you take your drill, whether it's a cordless or corded drill, and you're gonna attach it to the drill press. And what you do is you just place your body weight on it carefully. Now the Milescraft, you know, kind of has a little bit of play in it, so you have to be really careful. So I'm going to get it started. I'm going to have a look. That looks pretty centered. So I'm going to go for it. So mind you, this is cherry, so it's pretty tough, right? Clear that out a little bit. So Alexa, if you back up and look at me. See, I'm gonna just lean on it a little bit like this. And then you can look down here. So what I want to do is your reload. Let me do my reload. Oh. So my reloads are usually 3 inches exactly in length. So this is just a hair under 3 inches. But so what I like to do is make the lumen in here 1 inch deep. That means that 2 inches of reload are going to stick out. Okay. So I'm probably at about 1/2 inch right now. Okay, that's about 1 inch because I have a black mark here on my drill bit that's measures 1 inch. All right, so going to unclamp the spindle. All right, so this would be an Egyptian drill spindle, right? With a 1 inch deep, 3/4 inch lumen. And the reload fits exactly in there. Okay, just like that. Now with this, I would also, you can see there's these pencil marks. I would cut 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts and then put the hose clamp around it later to secure the reload in there. Okay, so this is the original way that I was drilling lumens into spindles, because they're so tall. You can't do it on a regular drill press. Now you can see this one's like over 2 feet long, and that's because when I do crutch drills are that I make are 2 feet long. The spindle is 2 feet long, so I have to be able to drill down a 2 foot long spindle, just 1 inch, but I still have to be able to secure it. So if I was just doing Egyptian spindles, this jig would be shorter, but this one is also for crutch drills. Now, one of the ways I do it now as well, let's take this out, that's hot, by the way. Which one should I do? There's another cherry. Alright, so I have a table vise, I have a workbench vise, and I also have this new Rockler drill press that also has a self-centering vise built in. Okay, and as you can see, a spindle can come through this one, right? So what I'll do is I'll center the spindle in the vise, crank that down, and then I'll just lay the spindle in my vise to be held like that. Okay. Then I will secure I'm going right way on this. What's wrong with me? Put the drill bit in. Now this one is not spring loaded. This one's spring loaded. This one is not. This one just is a free fall, but you can tighten it and hold it. Alright, so I'm going to let that fall. That's automatically centered right there. So I'm going to take my drill, tighten it down. There we go. And that's the other way I drill lumens. Okay? So, so there's the key. Sets down to the 1 inch mark. Hold that up. So there's stuff in there, so I'm gonna take that off. That's dangerous, so I'm gonna take that off. Get the dust out. Here's our reload, 3/4 inch, fits perfectly. I would make the cuts, put the hose clamp on, and that would secure the reload So that is how I drill lumens for Egyptian drills and crutch drills. Now, drilling lumens for mouth drills and hand drills is similar, and the Gouge hose drill. It's all similar, but they're different sizes. So the only one I'm talking about now is Egyptian drill and crutch drill sizes. So when we talk about hand drills and mouth drills, I'm going to discuss different drill bits in different sizes. Okay? All right, and that's it for this week. I will see you next time. Thanks.